We have on Mr. Seth Greer today. Sir, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Mr. Greer is the coach at Carrollton High School for the football team, and it's an honor to have you on today.
No, I appreciate it, guys. I'm excited, too. I don't think anybody enjoys being interviewed, but I don't mind. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, well, thank you. It means a lot that you coming
Absolutely.
out.
So we always start this way. What was your earliest memory?
My earliest memory, watching Terminator, the original Terminator. That's my earliest memory, I think. I don't know how old it was, probably 4.
Yeah. What was your first impression of the movie?
I loved it. Yeah, that's probably my started one of my infatuations with like weightlifting. I grew up being an Arnold Schwarzenegger like guru.
Yeah.
I had the stick in the yard and I do the Conan the Barbarian sword scene. Much. I still think I do it right. I'm sure it's not.
So where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Grayson County, but I grew up in Woodlawn. We moved down there. My dad got hired in Hillsville at the police department when I was probably 4 years old, and we moved to Woodlawn. So I grew up in Woodlawn all the way up until my 8th grade year. We moved to the Carroll side of Galax. I just stayed in Carroll County schools all the way to graduation. So.
Yeah. Did you graduate from Woodlawn Intermediate?
Yeah, I went there. Well, I guess that was back then. Went. I went to Woodlawn K through 7, so
Okay.
I got to go there all the way to 7th grade. And then you made the big trip to the middle school,
Right,
You
yeah.
met kids from foreign places like Cana. That was a big, It was funny, too, because back then they'd warn you, it was like, oh, you meet the Cana kids, and then you get there and it'd be like, oh, those kids are from Cana. And it was, I played football with a lot of them anyways. But, yeah.
So your father worked for the sheriff's department or the police?
He worked for Hillsville Police for like a year or two, and then he went to the Galax Police Department, and he worked there till the day he retired.
Did him working there did that make you want to strive to be a police officer, or was that ever a thing for you?
I think so. Yeah, that probably was a driving force. I was not the best of students. I always kind of got by easy early and had enough to not study, and I didn't work very hard in high school, just to be honest with you, because I knew I was probably going to go a military route. I joke with kids, I coach them now, and I'm like, man, I had 4 offers out of high school. And they're like, where? And I'm like, the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force were beating my door down. But I knew I was going the military route, and that's an easy transition, I thought, too. It was an honorable thing, too. I grew up in my household. My dad done a great job with it, and I thought, man, I could see myself doing that, something I could, So, yeah, that probably played the biggest part in it.
Did your father serve in the military?
No.
You mentioned about academics in high school and how you weren't that academic. Did you have any educators that affected you in any way growing up?
Or maybe even coaches?
My coaches did.
Yeah.
My coaches did. And it wasn't, we had great educators, and I'm not saying we didn't. We had some great teachers. And I'd like to think it wasn't a huge problem. I know I wasn't as effective as I should have been. But now my coaches, not just Tom Hale when he was here, Coach Hale, he's a phenomenal coach, and he was a great leader, but there was some tremendous people on that staff. And a lot of them guys ended up head coaches at places, won a lot of ball games, some of them won state titles. So when I look back on who and all was on that staff, it was a pretty impressive group of people. And then a lot of the guys they coached end up head coaches or significant coaches. So I look at that, it's kind of an interesting tree that branched out.
Yeah. So did you start playing football in middle school or high school?
I played it for as long as I could play it. So I was probably, back then, I think 4th grade was the earliest you could.
Flag football, maybe?
Well, Santa Contact started 4th grade then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And was that through the rec department?
It was, And at that time, the head coach here at Carroll, the rec players played on this field. So you thought you were something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You come in the locker room, which was located there, and you would, you thought you were something then. And you go up play on the game field, and it was a little bit different environment then.
Yeah.
It was somewhere you wanted to be, right? Oh, man, in a few years, I'm going to be up here playing on Friday nights. So.
Was that against counties, different counties?
Yeah, so back then, instead of just playing, there was like another Carroll team you'd play, and then I remember going to like foreign lands, like I said, Czech. You go to Czech, Dublin, the Dublin Cowboys, definitely Grayson. I remember playing them. But yeah, you'd play different areas, teams out of Wythe County.
Okay, yeah. Did you find it more intimidating to play the teams in the foreign areas than you did playing the other Carroll teams?
No, I like that.
Yeah.
I joke about job interviews with people. I used to, in like our criminal justice class I taught, we'd do job interviews as part of the skills stuff. And I always talked about I'd much rather interview with someone that I don't know than someone I know. And it's kind of like that way, maybe competing sometimes. And two, I like the excitement of a new opponent.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
So you mentioned joining the military after high school, and we know that you joined the Navy. What was your decision process like in choosing the Navy over maybe the Army or the Marine Corps?
So I was in school when 9/11 happened, and I kind of started making my mind up then. The Navy I contacted other branches and talked to them, and talking about the law enforcement route, the Navy is one of the few branches that would give me a guaranteed contract that after I graduated boot camp, I would go immediately into training to go into military police work. So it was in my contract with the Navy. As soon as I graduated, I would go to Lackland Air Force Base and go to Master at Arms School to become a Master at Arms, which is the Navy's police force. And two, they kind of sold me on the idea that, not talking bad about other branches, even though I have jokes, the idea was, in the Navy a lot of times you're given a mission to accomplish and go get it done. And you're self-sufficient in that, and a lot of other branches, there's a little more micromanagement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that they kind of used to appeal me, and the contract, like I said. I knew too many people that went in and then they're stationed somewhere that was nothing like what they're told they're going to do.
Yeah. And did you pursue that right after high school?
I did.
Was it that summer?
It was. So back then, everyone was, joining like crazy, and they were bolstering. So when I enlisted, it was way early in my senior year, maybe even the end of my junior year. I had to go into delayed entry, they called it. So I had to find something to do from May when I graduated to I went to boot camp in September.
Wow.
Not that long. So I rode a garbage truck. It was great.
Yeah.
Till you fall off of it. But I rode the back of the garbage truck in Galax for a few months.
Tell us about that. Were there any special lessons you learned picking up garbage?
People are filthy.
Yeah.
I could tell stories. Probably I shouldn't tell some. I will say this, and I shouldn't tell this. Used to, you would go to animal shelters and they would euthanize on certain days. And you would have to load up all those animals. Well, every now and then that baler would catch like, a Labrador or something sideways, and then you're having to sit there at a red light on the back of it, and there's like, Air Bud hanging out of the back of the truck, and there's some lady bringing her kid to school, hiding his eyes. You're like, I'm sorry, But, yeah. A lot of animals, you'd be surprised. No, like I said, I fell off of it one time. It was traveling faster than I thought. I guess in my mind I was a better athlete than I thought I was. I bounced. Like I specifically remember bouncing. And all these old guys, they were laughing at me, and I was trying so hard to play it off. I was dying inside. Like it was bad.
Oh, yeah.
It was. Anyways, that's.
I'm sure that whole process gives you a unique perspective on the world.
You know what? It's not a bad job.
Yeah.
I enjoy, I guess, later in life, you envy the jobs where you punch in the time clock and you punch out and it doesn't go home with you.
Yeah.
And I think that I took that for granted at the time because I haven't had a job since that you do that.
Yeah.
So you go into the Navy in September. Did you ship off to Naval Station Great Lakes immediately?
Great Mistakes, Illinois, yes. And when I hit in October and November, it's a different cold. It's like to your bones, like wet cold. I'm from the mountains in Virginia. I know what cold. No, it's cold. It's cold. So graduated out of boot camp there in the dead of winter, and then shipped from the dead of winter in Illinois to San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah. Big change.
Was you nervous heading out to boot camp, or what did you?
I was. You just don't know what you don't know. That kind of deal. Not knowing if I'm going to be good at anything.
You see a lot of times on YouTube how the Navy puts their recruits in boot camp through water survivor drills, and that's because.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's because a lot of Navy sailors are on ships or submarines or whatever. Did you find yourself excelling at those survivor drills, or did
Have you talked to someone that knows me?
No.
So I'm from Grayson County.
Yeah.
And some of my buddies around here will tell you funny stories about this, but. So I'll tell you this: the first day of swim quals comes up, and they march you on this 20-foot tower. You're 20 foot above the water, and you're looking at this huge American flag. It's really cool. And in the bottom of the pool, you look down, and they have these BUDS guys, the SEAL guys that come in and test people.
Yeah.
Well, they spend their time in the pool like helping out. They're at the bottom of like reciprocators on, Indian style, looking up at you. And my RDC, the drill instructor, is like, which one of you dumb blankety blanks showed up to Navy boot camp and can't swim? And it was me. And like there was a bunch of other guys, but it was, I was that guy. And I was already up on the tower, And I couldn't swim very well. I tried to learn before I went in, which consisted of my buddies throwing me in a pool somewhere and me like, figure it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. So I'm up there and the guy's like, well, you're going anyways. I was like, all right. So I get to the end of it and he's like, do you want a countdown or do you want to just jump? And I was like, give me a countdown. He's like, 1, 2, and then he just shoves me right in the middle of the back. You're supposed to cross your arms, cross your feet, put your nose down, all that. No, like flying through the air, belly flop. They went Baywatch on me. They had to pull me out with poles. It was bad. So every night when people got to go to bed, I got to march my butt down to the pool and learn how to swim, No, I did not do great with the swimming aspect of that, but I did pass my calls. So.
Leaving boot camp, I know now they have a certain, it's not really a final exam, but it's more like where they have like a mock ship, when they run a ship at night.
A bunch. We called it battle station.
Okay, battle station.
And you go for 36 hours pretty much without sleeping. And they run you through multiple mock scenarios that kind of emulate things that have happened historically. For instance, this is post 9/11. We had one that was mimicking the coal bombing. There's a Pearl Harbor scenario. There's a downed helicopter. And you march and run to these different facilities all night, all day, and you go through these survival different scenarios. Some of them are really cool. Like they've got one that's multiple hangars set up, and it's blacked out, and there's explosions and strobes, and you're going through this rubble like it's a ship trying to find guys. And when you've been up for that long, it's a little more real than So that was what we did.
Yeah. Did they have firefighting simulations?
Oh yes, I hated it.
Yeah.
Yep, and you can't see a thing.
Yeah.
You're going through these bulkhead doors, that's a foot shorter and a foot higher, so you're having to kick those and feel around and the guy in front of you, and
We got to interview Mike Scott, Mr. Mike Scott. Mm-hmm. He's talking about his experience on a sub, and talking about how fires are so sensitive down there.
Yeah. Well, it's everything.
So,
right?
Yeah.
And I don't think you can't see. You can't see anything.
No. So. Yeah. He had some unique stories for us. So you mentioned that you went to a military police school, a Master at Arms rate in the Navy. When you think of the Navy, you traditionally think of like carriers or submarines. Were you on an aircraft carrier? Or
no, I couldn't tell you anything about a ship.
Okay, so you were like land. Is that the correct term?
Yeah, we were. So if we were in the United States, we did military police work on base, and then when we were deployed, you could be deployed to multiple different job aspects.
Okay.
So I was stationed in like Pascagoula, Mississippi when I was in CONUS in the United States and did base patrol there. And then I was home ported most of my deployments out of Guantanamo Bay inside of Camp Delta. And when I was deployed overseas, I had job functions branching out from there.
Okay. Yeah.
So you hear a lot about Guantanamo Bay. Did it live up to the expectations?
I can't talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
My first deployment was 6 months there. I worked in a block labeled segregation and discipline. And then I got home for 3 or 4 months and I got redeployed to a different, like what they call Raven Squadrons, a joint task force out of there for about 18 months the second time. And what we did with that was different.
Mr. Kurt Sumner, he's been... it's not with the military, but he went for like a touring of it, and he says how hot it was down there. Was it?
It is unbelievably stifling.
Yeah.
It's like, and we flew from Fort Lewis, Washington, to Guantanamo. So it was like November, my first deployment in Fort Lewis, Washington State, to Guantanamo. So when I got there, you get off and you're like, I mean, it's just take your breath away, stifling. You're like, I can't make it. I'm not going to make it. It's a different kind of heat than I've been because it's so thick. I've been to other countries in the Middle East and places it's dry. This was like, Texas, nothing like that. It's just humid. I was stationed in Mississippi for years, and it didn't bother me like Guantanamo did. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's nothing to do.
You mentioned choosing the Master at Arms rate, having it in your contract, and you mentioned that maybe influencing your decision to go into law enforcement later in your life. Did you choose a rate that would keep you away from sea purposely?
I just knew that I wanted something that had to do with either law enforcement or almost a combat rate. The ships didn't interest me, to be honest with you. That wasn't why I joined the Navy. We wore woodland camo, and very rarely did we wear the Cracker Jack You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes for formal stuff, but well, obviously I wasn't a great swimmer.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that had something to do with it. But ship life was not exactly what I joined for. But the Navy has a lot of rates like that where you're not doing much with ships.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your job in the Navy? What a typical day for you would have looked like?
Sure. Well, in the United States was pretty simple. I mean, it's just like a police job. I mean, you go in, you have guard mount training, 15 minutes brief on anything. It's domestics, it's when on base, or traffic, or calls for service that happened the night before. There are some more boring aspects of it. Like, for instance, when you're a younger guy, lower ranking guy, you're not riding around pulling people over and responding to domestics. You're standing at a gate checking IDs. Yeah, it's just the pecking order of things. And then as you progress, we would move around. I did do. I was coxswain quad. We were small. Harbor boats, harbor patrol boats. Yeah. We had a pretty large shipyard that manufactured amphibious ships. So, and an international waterway that came in. So you would do a lot of like harbor patrol on the boats, and it's fun. I mean, because it breaks up your shift. Yeah. 8 hours, 4 hours you might be on a gate or patrolling the base, and then you jump out on a boat and you're out in the water for 4 or 5 hours doing small boat patrol, that's pretty fun. Yeah. That's in CONUS. I did a few things out of the country that are
interesting.
Yeah, they were interesting. When you tie anything, especially with Guantanamo, there's a lot you can't talk about.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
Are you at liberty to describe what the clearance investigation process is like, maybe? Because I assume you had a clearance issued.
Yeah, so you get a secret or top secret, and it's everything. It's your finances. It's talking to. There are people talk to my high school girlfriends, because at that time I was like 19. Talk to your coaches, teachers, stuff like that. Yeah, it's extensive. Yeah. I had a lot of guys that were moving to the unit I was moving out, and they didn't get cleared because their credit wasn't good enough. Which at that time, at that age, I didn't have much credit, so I guess that helped me.
Yeah.
But no, other than that, I mean, the questioning's not too bad. It's more about your background, and then through the training, they pick guys and pull guys and talk to them that they want for different areas.
When we spoke with Mr. Scott, he said that he had a TSSCI, which means he underwent a polygraph test. Did you have to?
I have, yes. Yeah. Which is funny, because then when I get into law enforcement to get hired places, most of them you took them, and I got to the point where I was just tired of taking them. Then you second guess yourself. Have you ever stolen anything from an employer? And I'm like, when I worked in a grocery store in high school, they were going to throw out this chuck steak one time. And the lunch lady cooked it for me. Then you're like, oh, did I take that steak? They didn't. It didn't bother me at the time, because I never felt like I had much that worried me, because the things they asked on a security clearance, were more about bribery and money and things that were really moral turpitude questions. Not things you'd be like, oh my gosh. It's not like, have you ever drank a beer? That's not what they're asking.
Yeah. So how long were you in the Navy for?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years active, and then I did 4 years just inactive reserve.
Okay. Did you consider extending your contract?
No, my last deployment, when I said 18 months, was boots on ground. That's not counting training time. I left, and my son was 2 years old. I have an older son. He's a sophomore in college now. When I left, my son was maybe right before 2 years old. When I got back, he was over 3.5 years old, and he had no clue who I was at all. And I felt like that was something that, personally, I didn't want to do for 20 years. Yeah. And I had a decent resume to move right in law enforcement. Yeah.
So you get out of the Navy, and you're looking for a law enforcement job. Where do you go first?
Yeah, I was panicked.
Yeah.
I was overseas coming home, so it's not like you can just show up places and put an application in.
Right, yeah.
And the internet at the time is, not everyone's keen on online hiring. I'm putting in a lot of places across the country, but my son is here. So when I got back, my first couple of offers, which actually worked out really quick, were Roanoke City and Pulaski. And I got through a couple of interviews with both, and I was pretty specific and said, whoever offers me first, I'm taking a job. And Pulaski Police was like, well, do you want a job? And I'm like, yes. I was scared to death of being unemployed. I'm young. I didn't know. I got a child. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a job. So my fear was getting out and going like a year and not having work. So I got hired with Pulaski. It wasn't even a month past when I got back home, maybe 3 weeks. Wow. Hired and started. Yeah.
Did you have to go to a police academy?
I did, which I was lucky enough. They hired immediately. I had a few weeks of transition. The academy started in January. I mean, I got hired in like November. So I go and do some odds and ends there, and they pay your way through the academy, full salary.
Wow.
So I was getting paid to do is go to the police academy, which I had already had some experience in. Coming out of the military, it was not very hard.
We spoke with an Army recruiter a few months ago, I guess about a year ago now. He said that a lot of former military police guys didn't enjoy the civilian law enforcement field because things were different. Did you find that to be the case for you?
I spent a lot of time with police growing up, so I knew there were some specific differences. For instance, you guys have the right to search and seizure here as citizens. In the military, there is no Fourth Amendment home base. So probable cause, reasonable suspicion, things like that are much different. I knew that going in, so I didn't have a bad transition at all with it. I kind of knew what I was getting into. Law enforcement's changed so much over the years that it's even not today what it was then. But I had an idea of that going in, so it wasn't a big transition for me. I was excited because, if anything, it freed me up for some different opportunities.
So can you talk about your first little bit on the Pulaski police force?
I loved it. I had it made. I walked into one of the best group of guys as the shift I worked on. I still am close friends with a lot of them. The camaraderie was excellent. Pulaski's an interesting place. If you want to get into something at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can get into something at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's as much work there as you want. It's a great place for a young officer to learn. I worked with great people. I got lucky enough, or maybe, later on I talked to my wife about this and we joke, but I won't say it's not a downfall. I love what I'm doing now. I love how my path has went. But, I made detective pretty early. Into narcotics, working narcotics, into my law enforcement career. I was lucky enough at Pulaski too. They had a tremendous captain at the time, and they had some SWAT openings, and I met criteria for their SWAT team. So I got into SWAT, and I made detective very early. And what I mean by it, when I say sometimes I wonder about that, it's if you make it early and then you do about 8-9 years of it, you start to go, wait a minute, I've got 20-some years left of this, and it wears on you some. So there's times I wonder if I didn't make that too early, But I was on the road there for a couple of years and then went into the drug task force and started working narcotics for the Claytor Lake Drug Task Force, which was, at that time, the town of Pulaski County, Wythe County, and Radford, and the state police. So I had a blast. I mean, when I say we were kicking indoors and doing by bus, and you'd work some undercover, you'd work some CIs. I mean, it's what you think is excitement. It is, until you do the paperwork, and that's not exciting. It's not.
We talked to
Mr. Horton.
Or Ronnie Dean Horton. He was on the SWAT team for the state police.
Dean, great guy,
Yes.
tremendous guy. He was. We worked together on some calls.
Okay.
Can you talk about the difference between a state police task force and your work with the town of Pulaski?
You mean a SWAT team or the task force?
Or the SWAT team.
So we're a collateral duty SWAT team. They are as well. The difference is they get called out for so much more, but the response time also may be 2 hours. I won't pick on the state and our guys, but they had a great team at the time, and we worked well together. They would end up into a lot different kind of scenarios. We dealt with, I won't say typical, but we had a lot of kind of the same reoccurring calls where we were at. The great thing about the team I was on, they were only a 10-man team, but I don't know if there may have been one dude at the time that wasn't prior military.
Wow.
So there was a lot of experience on. We had multiple guys with multiple combat deployments on. It was a good crew. But no, I mean, the thing with the state too, a lot of times I think that separate, they may get called to Henry County, they may get called to Roanoke. You never know where they go, and they don't know what they're walking into. They're an assistant to so a sheriff's office call them and go, hey, we need some help, and they should. With us, we were very familiar with our area. We were very familiar with a lot of the people we dealt with. Now, we would also respond to like tech if they needed something or anywhere like that. We would respond outside jurisdiction. But we knew a lot of the people a lot better in our, because we were just so familiar with them. So I think that would be a huge difference, to showing up somewhere you're trying to figure out what road you're on, who you're dealing with, all that. We kind of already had the gist of that, but they had a lot higher call volume than we did.
So you mentioned at about the 9-year point, you had a moment of self-reflection. You weren't sure if this was something you wanted to pursue for 20 more years.
Well, no, I think that was just something that crossed my mind from time to time. coaching hooked me.
Yeah.
It hooked me big time. And, you know, I think back that if I hadn't have found that and hadn't have switched paths, I wondered just what would that career look like, you know, over time.
Yeah. So you were coaching during your time as a...
I moved to Carroll County at the end of, when Sheriff Gardner took over in January 2012. I went from the drug task force in Pulaski to this drug task force.
Okay.
Which is the Twin County Drug Task Force, which is Grayson, Galax, Carroll County, and the state.
Okay.
So I took a narcotics spot here. Shortly after getting here, I won't say random, my little boy at the time was getting into recreation football, and I wanted to coach his team, and I got into coaching it. I come and visited the football coach that was here at the time and sit down with him, just wanted to talk football, and ended up taking a coaching spot with him. And once I got into it, man, I got hooked.
Yeah.
Eventually, I took a road sergeant spot back on the road. I had some a transition going back to the road, thinking about the same thing. You know, how long am I going to work investigations?
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to go back to the road and answer some calls. And you know, you look at wearing a uniform and how you do that job much differently after you've worked in investigations a while. So I took that, but the caveat was I would not be able to coach. And I thought, man, I won't miss it that bad. This is my career. I'm going to have to stay. And about 1 year of that, and I realized, man, I really like coaching. Friday nights were difficult. I was like, I really miss it.
Yeah.
So I went and found out how to become a teacher, you know, which was not as difficult as I thought it would be. I shouldn't say that. That makes somebody mad. But they have these programs.
What was that process like?
So I wanted to know how. I knew that coaching is what I wanted to do. And I liked teaching. I taught at the academy a bunch. I liked teaching new recruits. I was a general instructor in police at the police academy doing some things, helping out. So I went to Dr. Burnette before he was the superintendent. I went and said, hey, how do you become a teacher? And he got me onto what they call career switcher programs. And what it is if you have a bachelor's in a approved career and 5 years of experience, you can take education courses and they'll give you a teaching license.
Wow.
And that took me about 19 months, and I had a teaching license. So I would work night shift and do my college online in between, and then I would do my student teaching hours. I get off night shift, go like the middle school and do some student teaching hours here and there up here. And then I'd have to drive to Virginia Beach on 2 Saturdays a month and got my teaching license.
Wow.
So.
Where did you do your schooling?
Regent University.
Regent, okay.
They had the reason I did them, which I'm a fool for not finishing, they have a master's program with it. I'm like 4 credit hours from it, but I use my GI Bill money.
Yeah.
I'm out of that.
Yeah.
You said earlier that you weren't really into academics in high school. How did that kind of play into doing the online school at night?
Later on, I fell in love with learning. Now, when I got into investigations and the older I got, I really fell into like loving learning. I love to learn about stuff I'm interested in. Early and on, that was Fourth Amendment things, that was crime scenes, that was interview techniques was my big one I really enjoyed. So I really enjoy learning. I went back, my wife made me, I say that, but I went back and got my bachelor's degree. I was probably 28 years old using my GI Bill money. Which was easy when you're a detective getting your criminal justice degree. I mean, so, you know, but so I went back to college and I thrived in college. I don't mind learning. You know, academically in high school, but as I grown, I learned, I love learning. Like I kind of grew into it. Same way now, football, like there's this incomprehensible amount of information out there. And it's like you're constantly just, strength and conditioning is the same way. You know, so no, after that, I got really into, I just like to learn, you know. And then I also got a chip on my shoulder. Like, the guys will be like, man, you're not going to be a teacher. They're like, you can't do that. I'm like, watch. You know, watch this.
So your degree's in criminal justice. Was that major specifically chosen for pursuing teaching, like maybe Mr. Boland's type of class? Or
no, when I got the bachelor's, it was just to get my degree.
Okay.
I was like, I got this GI Bill money, and this might help me get promoted later. But then I would decide to go into the career switching, and I did the education classes and was working on a master's in education because I was like, well, criminal justice doesn't help me there. I went and got every teaching endorsement you can get, man. I'm endorsed in middle school math, all English, all social studies, physical education, criminology, criminal justice. Like, I went and got all these. I was like, man, somebody's going to hire me as a teacher, you know. Now I'm like, please don't find out I can teach math.
You mentioned working the road at night and then coming and doing your student teaching hours during the day. Was that difficult?
Driving home was.
Yeah.
I'm one of them when you wake up in your driveway and you're like, whoa, how did I get here? I think I was so excited at the opportunity, and I'm pretty driven. So when I get in my mind I'm going to do something, I think that the excitement got me through, and it was new, so I didn't want to mess up. You know what I mean? I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm really big on professionalism, and I did not want to be like in the back of the room dozing off. So, I didn't know what I was doing, but I'd be trying to help kids. I'm like, hey, well, you need help here with number 13. And they're doing it, and I'm like trying to look at some other kid like, okay, how did he do this? But no, I think the excitement of it, that was kind of, and we're used to, and law enforcement guys are so used to working all night and then going to court.
Right.
That's a pretty common occurrence.
Yeah.
So.
So you make it through that program, and you're looking for a job in teaching now. What was that like? Did Dr. Burnette offer you a job before you
Negative.
started?
I put in for some jobs here. No interest at the time. I got an interview at Floyd County, and interviewed there. Really liked it. Accepted a job actually verbally, a history teaching position at Floyd County. And then the same week, Grayson County called. And I knew that there was a really good coach in Floyd that had been around a long time. I just didn't know him very well. I knew the coach at Grayson County, and I really liked the guy. I had a lot of respect for him. So, I thought, well, I can drive. I was living at that time in Galax. I can drive all the way to Floyd County, or I can take a job in Grayson County where I'll drive 15 minutes and work for a guy who I know, even though I knew Floyd had a good guy there. So I actually took a history teaching job at Grayson County.
Did you have any prior interest in history?
I love history.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big history guy. Yeah. History to me was the most natural transition into teaching in a classroom.
Yeah.
Me and Ethan are both big history guys. So which area of history really interests you?
So as I've gotten older, I told you I get into, so I'm big into Nordic history now and Viking history, and I'm big into Celts and kind of Western civilization.
Yeah.
But I find all of it intriguing. I have a thing for warrior cultures. I don't know. To me, there's something impressive. The Spartans, for instance.
One of my friends told me one of your favorite sayings is "memento mori."
Oh yes.
Yeah.
We talk about that. And I talk about Marcus Aurelius to
Yeah.
some of them, and while they're warming up, and they're looking at me like, please shut up. But I'm big into history.
Have you read Meditations?
So my son has it right now, and he's supposed to drop it by. He's like, you got to read it. You got to read
Yeah.
it. So Jackson just finished it up, and he's telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, shut up, let me read it.
Yeah.
But yes, he has it.
Are you familiar with Ryan Holiday?
I am not.
He's a Stoic, pioneer.
Uh-huh.
But he's big on meditations, and he's got this step-by-step plan to become more Stoic. He's an interesting dude.
I think we need more of that in the world.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A lot more of that in the world.
Yeah.
As we don't spend enough time examining ourselves. But, anyways.
You mentioned your job at Grayson. How long were you at Grayson County for, teaching history?
3 years, I think. Yeah, 3 years. I taught World II, U.S. history, government, and then I ended up teaching criminal justice as well.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I call him my mentor. My biggest influence as a coach was Coach McPherson at Grayson County. He's somebody I admire a lot. We talk 3 or 4 times a week still. So he gave me as much work as I wanted to do. Man, I just kept letting him shovel it on. And I have a lot of respect for that dude. But that was there 3 years, and I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like trial by fire, and he let me burn myself a lot. He'd look at me and be like, you need to fix this. And I'm like, I'm trying. Coaching wise, but I really, I owe him a lot for that. You know what I mean? Because people don't like taking risks.
Yeah.
That's their job on the line too. And he took a lot of risk with me, and he let me have a lot of coaching freedom. So.
Did you miss police work?
I thought I would. I really did. I tell stories and guys laugh and go, man, that's cool. But the job I told you changed. And the world's changing. And how we handle things and technology and the expectation of behavior now is much different. I felt like it was becoming harder and harder to do the job. A lot of the people that I went into law enforcement with and worked undercover with and worked narcotics with, they all left. You know, they were kind of thinking the same thing, and I can't put my finger exactly on it. But no, I don't. I used to tell there are certain aspects I miss, but I really don't think I do. I see my kids at the same time every night. You know, I get to have Christmas off with them. I get to do things with them. You know, before I get home at maybe 7, 8 o'clock at night, I might get a call again at 3 a.m. and be back out. So I don't think I do.
You mentioned earlier about coaching track.
Yeah.
Did you coach track at Grayson?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
We coached track. Matt got me into that, and man, I loved it. I like coaching track. I like speed development. I like mechanics. I love seeing kids shave time. You know.
Did you run track in high school?
I did.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you a sprinter mostly?
You can look at me by telling, yeah. I threw a little bit. I wasn't great at it. Around 100 to 200. One time, coach shoved me in a 400. I was just horrific. I actually was telling that story earlier. I line up in a 400, and I look over in the lane beside me, and there's this guy named Ahmad Bradshaw. Yeah, he played in the NFL for like 12 years. I sounded really fast in my mind. I was not a 400 guy at all.
What was your PR for the 400? Do you remember?
No, nothing. It's so bad I don't remember, so that should tell you. I was sucking wind so bad, I don't know if I ever heard a time in the 400. I was never a really fast guy. I did it to, you know, it was another sport to do. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed coaching it much more than I enjoyed doing it.
I like track. I think cross country is more my thing.
Yeah.
Track is a great way to get in shape, stay in shape.
Most distance guys I know, that is it. They love cross country and they use track as a bridge.
Yeah, because it just keeps you doing something in springtime.
Yes.
You mentioned your coaching at Grayson, and now, primarily this time of the year, you're kind of a strength and conditioning coach rather than just football 24/7. Did you start to incorporate strength and conditioning into your coaching at Grayson County?
Well, I did, and when I got there, I had run weight rooms already for years, and that's kind of one of my things I've always delved into.
Yeah.
Coach Mack, yeah, that's what I did there.
Okay.
So I had zero period, and we do the lifting. Yeah, that was. So I use that with my track and field program as well, but with football and then all athletes. But I did a lot of strength and conditioning work there.
The Carroll News actually did an article on you a couple months ago, and in the article you mentioned that one of your priorities for Carroll County was creating a strength program for all athletes.
Yes.
What does that process look like here versus in Grayson County?
Well, the process is the process. It's consistency. We do, and most strength and conditioning guys know this, I'm a conjugate guy. So rather than having these phases where you get strong and big and then you get fast and then you do, no, we work all of it together continuously. So we're continually building our power. You know, strength is that slow, heavy movement. That power is that twitch, you know. You want somebody to punch with power, right, not strength. A bullet is effective because it's powerful. It's traveling very fast. So we try to work power. We work strength. Then we also work mobility and prehabilitative and rehabilitative stuff. We want to make you bulletproof, right? So all that is programmed in to always be built upon rather than having phases where we're just getting strong and we're just trying to get faster. So it looks similar. The more I do, the more I learn. You know, you can read a lot of books on it. There's a lot of great information on it. There's almost too much information. To me, the best teacher with it has been experience and trial and error with what works for your athletes. Different athletes need to be trained differently, different sports, right? Yes, I want a strength and conditioning program here that works for all athletes. With experience and over time, you kind of learn what works for different sports. And there's some common sense to it, right? Yeah. You can't train everybody like a left tackle. It doesn't quite work that way, right? A volleyball player doesn't need to train like a wide receiver. But I would love to see that. I think it's great community force, community building for every sport to be involved in it, and it benefits everybody. I'm a big, I don't want to say school spirit, but I am a camaraderie guy. I mean that for like community, not just football. I liked, and it's cool for me too, because if I train a bunch of basketball guys or a bunch of softball girls or something, and then I watch them play, it's like, she got something out of that, or he got, you know what I mean? Like maybe I'm not. It may sound selfish, I don't know, but it builds great connections. You know, when you see them succeed, and I don't know, it makes me feel good about what we're doing as a whole.
Yeah.
You know?
You mentioned earlier about coaching track, and with the long distance side of it, you're not having as much experience with that. Can you talk about your approach to that? I'm not sure if you have any long distance
With
runners.
strength and conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
we're more about stability, muscular endurance, core stability and endurance. You do want some things. The ankles and feet are a big priority. Being able to handle, heavy load over time with that. To me, an endurance athlete is one that is stable in all joints, and they're not a thoroughbred, they're a pack mule. Right, so we want to do things that bulletproof their joints. Now, I do like creating upper body power for their stride, so that once that stride is created and they're carrying momentum, they're not wearing out. They can use their momentum to continue to carry themselves. So that's kind of the approach on one of those athletes. It is all about that stability and core stability. And muscular endurance, of course, your conditioning you build within sport. I don't take guys and run them for mine. That's not my thing. That's your sport. That's what you do. My job is to prepare your body to do that. Your cardiovascular system will get in shape there. But we want to make things to where your ankles, calves, knees, shoulders can take wear and tear over time. So we want to create space in the shoulders. We want to fix any postural issues that you have. Hips, we want your hips to be able to fire and operate in line, without some kind of stride deficiency.
How do you balance working in all that lifting, conditioning while you're in the season and not hurting your performance at practice or at a game?
So, especially like with our basketball, we call them activation workouts. But so the things that make you sore are like eccentric movements. That's when you're fighting gravity slowly. We do a lot of things to cut that out. So when you're in season, especially competition day, we'll do just concentric. For instance, if you're on a deadlift day and you happen to be playing a basketball game, you're going to pick the trap bar deadlift up and you're going to drop it. You're going to pick it up and you're going to drop it. It's got bumper plates on. The part that's going to wear you out and tear a lot of fiber is the down movement, right? Controlling, fighting that weight down. You're going to pick it up and you're going to drop it, And we do lighten some things up. We keep rep ranges lower to where you're not tearing apart a lot of tissue, to where it's working the strength aspect. So we won't dip much below or above 6 repetitions. We probably won't go above 5 repetitions on any main strength movement. Same way with football, but now we lift heavy.
Yeah.
Heavyweight, you have to maintain the strength that you have. And I think a lot of athletes make the mistake of training for a season coming up, and that's amazing. They got ready, and then they stop training. And they, as the season wears on, their strength drains. And that's where you get some of that injury toward the end of season.
Is there a difference too between mobility and flexibility?
To me, there is. I'm sure there's a definition that's out there.
Do you dislike flexibility?
No, I'm all for flexible. Flexible
Okay.
muscles are strong muscles, but to me, flexibility pertains more to a muscle's ability to expand and stretch. Mobility is the joint and the movement of the body, the range of motion. So we need both. I think mobility, if we're not careful, mobility hinders us more. I'm big on the word mobility because kids today kind of grow up more sedentary and they sit around a lot, and we have a lot of weak hips. So if you look at a lot of college programs, as people enter the programs, they're being taught to do things like stand on one leg, jump on one leg, crawl. And it's because we're missing some of those motor skills and the mobility that goes with them because our hips are getting very weak. You'll see it with a lot of people's feet that turn out where the hips are weak and the femurs are rotating, things like that. So I think that, to me, mobility is the hip range of motion, the shoulder range of motion, of being able to get what our body's supposed to do. That can limit you in a lot of other things or create problems if you have shoulder impingements if it's moving. Flexibility, we work in. I just think flexibility is easier to work into than mobility. Mobility, you really have to focus on. Flexibility for making sure we get those muscles, have our good stretch periods, our good warm-up periods, and we're getting them that as they get stronger, they'll become flexible, The mobility thing, to me, is you have to really make sure you're focusing on it. So we start every day trying to do some sort of mobility work.
What's your views on diet?
Nutrition's paramount, so we don't build muscle and strength in the weight room. It happens, we tear apart the fiber and we put the body under stress. Then it starts the recovery process. And, I tell the kids in the simplest of terms, without the proper nutrition, it's like trying to build a brick wall with either no bricks or no mortar. It's everything. That's what their cells are rebuilt stronger using protein. The carbohydrates are using the fuel in the body. We have to have it. We're working right now to try to get our post-workout nutrition set up. we talk a lot about nutrition with the guys as far as what they should be eating, what they shouldn't, what they can replace some of the stuff with. Timing, nutrient timing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys, you fall in two categories, right? You're the person that eats an abundant amount of calories and it's hard for you not to, or you're the opposite. You need those calories so bad and you're struggling to get them in.
Yeah.
You know, I hear that all the time, Coach, I'm trying so hard, but it's so hard to eat that many calories a day. And 4,000 calories for me is easy. 4,000 calories for a lot of our athletes, it's a struggle. They're trying to choke down food,
Yeah.
you know. For me, that's like a good day.
I want to kind of keep on hitting about the long distance running, but I think calories is something that we don't really talk about nutrition that much ever. And can you talk about the importance of nutrition for a long distance runner?
Well, your body's favorite source of energy, first of all, the carbohydrates in your body are stored in your muscle as a glycogen. That's the first fuel source we turn to because it's the easiest for your body to use. Your body will atrophy and use muscle for energy faster than it will use fat, for instance. You know, so if you don't have fuel in the tank, right, if you don't have those stored carbohydrates and then also some protein in the stomach, some carbs in the stomach, some fats. Fats are the best energy source, better than carbohydrates, but it's a little bit different process for your body to break down. So if you don't have a mixture of that in your body to fuel through these workouts and recovery, then you actually, cortisol and stress hormones are released in the body. You'll break down some of your actual tissue you're trying to build and keep as energy. Right? That's why when you see people that don't have great nutrition that get into distance running, they look, I don't have a good term, well, atrophy sets in. If you notice, their muscular tone's gone.
Yeah.
And they lose a lot of that. It's because your body loves that as a fuel source because it's almost an emergency. You know, it's easy to get to. It's fast. So if you're not, also for our immune system, keeping the proper nutrients in your body to keep your immune system up, because running also taxes our immune system the same way as lifting and other sports do. You know, so if we're not keeping our immune system up, we're not keeping enough fuel in our body so that we can fuel the workouts and the recovery, then it will turn to whatever source it can grab, which is muscle.
Right. Yeah.
You know, which turns into things wearing and tearing. You're not recovering. Muscles recover. Tendons recover, ligaments recover. If you don't have the nutrients in your body to help those things recover, then eventually, you know, something's going to break.
Yeah.
In swimming, it's a bit of a different sport than running is. Running focuses primarily on your core and lower body. Swimming uses your shoulders, your chest, your lats. What changes would you make in a swimmer's diet versus a runner's diet? Would you still include the same carbohydrates and proteins?
You can get into body weight, body mass index, what kind of athletes you're talking about. And we do a lot of tracking on, I hate saying how you feel, but you know, everybody's metabolism is at a different rate.
Right.
You know, a swimmer's going to burn a lot more calories in a shorter amount of time because of the muscle that's being used compared to some of the momentum of a runner.
Right.
So I think it depends on the athlete, you know. You just have to track it and kind of tell, and it takes time. You know, it could be a 200, 300 calorie adjustment, you know, through the day and see how you feel. It could be, let's add a little more protein or let's add a little more fat to your diet and see how you feel. We all react different. That's why there's so much advice out there about nutrition. The big thing is making sure that we have enough in us to recover. Your body will start to tell you too.
Yeah.
You know, those hunger levels they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, mine are there for a different reason. I just like to eat. But, you know, you guys, your body's craving something and you're feeling, it's almost like, you know, when you start getting into these events and you're craving salt all the time, right, for that water retention.
Yeah.
That's a thing, you know, your body's telling you what you need.
We're friends with a guy named Paul Tilley, and he runs 100 milers. Just talking about salt and tablets and stuff. It's crucial. I ran a 50-mile race in January, and nutrition it kills you.
Yep.
It kills you. And we're training for longer races in the fall. And that's just the main problem with me. I'm just not really good at that.
Yep.
I'm terrible at that. I don't know how to gain weight while running. And that's one thing I'm trying to do right now.
That's difficult.
Is gaining weight. Because I would like to be 150 at least by the time the races come up. And I'm 140 right now, so I'm just trying to maintain that level of weight, but gain weight too.
By fall?
Yeah. I'm not really sure how to pack that weight on, or how to gain those calories.
Have you tracked it? We got to track it. We got to track it. Keep turning that dial up.
Yeah.
We got to get slower digesting carbs in there, something that'll burn slower over time.
Yeah.
You don't want yeah, come see me sometime. I'm not saying I'm an expert in nutrition, but we deal with this a lot. We got guys. We're always trying to add weight. Like, we are always trying to add weight.
Yeah.
I find that to be particularly challenging during swim season. I lose a little bit of weight during cross country, but it's not a whole lot. I'm pretty good at maintaining, but during swim season, I dropped 10 pounds in the first month, and I just can't do anything about it.
It's higher intense over a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is the pool's cold, so even if I'm not swimming, I'm shaking still.
There's a thermogenic element to that, yes.
Yeah. And like, I look pretty lean right now, and I'll bounce back up because swim season ended last week, and I'll bounce back up over track season. But I still feel like it takes like the summer where I'm not doing anything to get back to a healthy weight, and I almost feel kind of fragile coming into the track season because I'm underweight, just objectively, and that's led to some injuries in the past.
We need to pump some steel. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll try.
Well, you see with wrestlers trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Because I've always heard that that's real unhealthy, constant, massive fluctuations.
This has been the bane of some of my existence.
Yeah.
I struggle with this. I've had some issues in the past with this very subject matter. I just told you, your body's favorite source to go to fast, right, is atrophic muscle. You know, that's why when people starve themselves, yeah, they lose weight, but it's weight, it's muscle too. It's not, you know, they're not necessarily losing just fat. In fact, they'll lose more muscle than fat. And I get a lot of guys that weight lift heavy for years, and they're trying to put on size and strength, and then they want to cut 20 pounds to wrestle. Well, that's what your body's going to turn to first. And I've struggled with this. I don't support it. I'll just be honest. I don't support cutting weight. If that's your primary, that's great. Like, I guess for you as an individual, and I'd never tell anybody what's best for them if that's what they feel. But as far as an athlete that plays multiple sports, I'm not big on cutting weight, especially in a rapid amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's me being honest with you, and I know that a lot of people might disagree with me there, and I've been told different things on it, and that's an athlete's choice. But also, that athlete can't expect to be stronger. They can't say, I want to get stronger and I've got to cut weight. It doesn't work that way. You know, you can't cut all your calories out of your diet, intentionally starve yourself to lose body weight to make a certain weight and get stronger. That's a fairy tale. We don't live in that world. So that's not something I'm big on. I've known a lot of successful programs that make their guys wrestle up.
Yeah.
You know, especially where there's prominent football. If you want football players to wrestle, you allow them to wrestle up. You know, and they'll gain weight and get stronger and do that. But when you ask a kid that weighs 240 pounds to drop 20 pounds, that's a consistent heavy weightlifter and trainer. That's 20 pounds of muscle. That's a lot of strength they lose.
Yeah.
You know, I fluctuate weight a lot, and you guys will see me. You'll see me get fat and lose it, and I'll go from 270 some to 228. You know, when I'm at 228, I can't move near the same weight I did at 278, and that's me trying to lose weight correctly.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah. What advice would you have to someone who's trying to pack on weight, or even just getting strength, but hasn't really worked with someone like you, or is kind of in the dark? Maybe they're going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, but they don't have a plan.
So, in the world of internet, there is so much information out there. Now, you have to be selective, and you have to take your time, and like anything, do your own research. But you can learn. My big advice is stick to the basic movements that use as much muscle as can be used in a movement. Those are always your big threes. You know, those are squats, deadlifts, and bench presses. I'm a trap bar deadlifter here because it takes a long time to teach conventional deadlifts. But those 3 main movements done consistently, heavily, you know, and there's different rep ranges. The strength rep range, you can go up to 5 to 6 reps. When you get 6 reps and above, you start getting into size, right? Yeah. You know, training those things in capacity, heavy, and then auxiliary lifts that support them, so pushes and pulls, and then keeping those calories clean, right? Lean meats, source of proteins, whole grains for carbohydrates, good, healthy, natural fats. You know, if you'll start there and build from it, it'll happen. You know, and there are so many people that are willing to talk about this now. The problem is, like with social media, there's, like I said, there's almost too much out there. Right. But if you take your time and learn about the compound movements, the tried and true, we're talking about like things, history and the Stoics, You know, I'm a believer in timeless stuff. No, look at the things that have worked for people for hundreds of years. In weight training, look at the things that have worked for 100 years that are always staples and mainstays in training today, which are those 3 bigs I just told you, you know, or an overhead press, for instance. Those are timeless. That's because they work. You know, so start with those basics, and the basic movements are the things that use the most muscle, that use different groups, and that's what builds strength.
What's your advice regarding like calisthenic and body weight workouts?
So that's where we start guys at. You know, if you're not looking to get huge and strong and you want to maintain some shape, and if you're an entry level, that will build strength. But so we start our guys, they don't touch a bench press, they start push-ups. You know, core strength, we do a lot of planking. We do a lot of variations of sit-ups, things like that. I'm a huge chin-up, pull-up guy, like big into that.
Yeah. Did you know Coach Sharp when he was here?
I did. I see him every now and then. I used to see him at the Wellness Center a lot of years ago when I worked down hills with him.
He started coaching us when we were in middle school. He was great.
He knows his stuff.
Oh, yes.
He knows his
Yes,
stuff. I like him. Yep.
When in the summer he would have us lift 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we do 2 by 8 of each exercise. We did bench press. We didn't deadlift, but we squatted.
Yes.
We did 2 by 15 of lunges. That was the only exception to the 2 by 8 rule. We did hammer curls, individual. He didn't want us doing it once because he wanted us like to keep the core stability.
To keep it.
He had us. I think he called them chainsaws, but we like
Single arm dumbbell row.
Yeah. We did overhead press with dumbbells. What else did we do?
It was a good amount.
We did shoulder raises too.
He's working everything, all your planes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
He did.
Yes.
And during the season, we dropped it down to twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, just how it worked out with the scheduling. We don't really do that anymore with the current cross-country and track programs.
But it did make you feel good.
It made us feel good. It is 4 years later, and I've never ran as fast as I did my 7th grade season when I lifted.
We were really
we were good.
Yeah, because we made it to state for middle school.
Yeah.
A lot of us, and now we're not really.
Yeah.
seeing
Strong is fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strong is fast. And what I tell people that is, I can show you our 10 flies. I don't know if y'all have ever run a 10 fly, but that's how I measure speed.
Okay.
And it's a 10-yard window of your top speed. So you get up to top speed, you hit a gate, a start gate and a finish gate on our. I bought laser timers with the Athletic Association, was awesome, and I said, hey, here's what I need, and we use it for strength and conditioning for every sport I can get in it, and they got us laser timers. And when you hit the gate and hit the first gate, starts the timer, hit the second gate, 10 yards exactly, it finishes the timer. It's usually a 1 second split. It tells me your top miles per hour you're running at top speed. My younger guys, especially, are some of my guys that have not been weight training or that are in, they're not fast. And one of the things I can tell you is we have to get much stronger before we'll get faster at that.
Yeah.
Because speed is how much force you put through the ground and how long you can carry that top momentum of it in your stride length. And without strength, you're not going to be fast.
You can tell, especially at different cross-country meets, like teams like Abington, they all make state, and they don't look like us. They don't. They look like completely different athletes. Athletes. And we come out there, and we're not out of shape, but they just think they're a whole different level.
So Abington, I know their strength and conditioning guy that runs. They run 2 weight rooms in the school.
Yeah.
They have 2 different weight rooms. They run 2 strength and conditioning programs there for all athletes, and they're big on it. Every sport into strength and conditioning.
Yes. Hydration too. I'd like to hit on that real fast, especially for running. It seems hydration is a crucial part. Can you talk about that a little bit?
As much as we can get, constantly.
Yeah.
I make them bring what we got to drink all day. I can't work out without it. I drink so much water that, I'm sure I got to pee every 20 minutes. But I do all day. So that's something we'll emphasize going into the summer months, especially. But I'm already on to them about hydration because a hydrated muscle is, research. I can't remember the exact totals, like 3% stronger, 3 or 4%, just hydrated to slightly dehydrated. That's huge when you think about top end numbers, right? 3% of 300 pounds. That's a big chunk. So, and that's more repetitions and weight moves. So hydrated muscles are strong. Guys that want to take like creatine, right? I hear creatine all the time.
Yeah.
It don't work without water.
Yeah.
You better be hydrated,
Yeah.
overly hydrated.
So that was my next question. What do you think about creatine?
My personal opinion, creatine's a naturally occurring substance. The way antibiotics and hormones and a lot of our meats are today, we don't see it as much. Salmon's loaded with it, natural fish. In the 1970s, before a lot of our current USDA rules, the claim was that a quarter pound of natural beef has about 4 to 5 grams of creatine in it. Well, that's what a workout dose is now. I'm fine with creatine as long as it's taken with an intermediate to advanced guy and they watch their water intake and use it correctly. That doesn't bother me because I know that it's pretty natural substance. It's not some, I know they create it now in a lab, but it's, when it was first started used, I think that was this new dramatic thing. Well, it's in a lot of what we eat already.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a big protein guy, from all sources.
Do you think that protein from a meat is better than like a protein bar?
Oh, absolutely. Protein bars are typically made with the leftover remnants of different protein manufacturers. Whey protein, for instance, all it is the isolated protein molecules from milk. That's all whey protein is. It's milk protein. It's the fast digesting. The other side's a casein protein. It's in milk. It's slow digesting. So whey protein powder, it's milk protein. That's the chocolate milk secret right here. Oh, chocolate milk.
Okay. Interesting.
It's sugar, which you need, the glycogen we talked about,
Yeah.
and it's protein.
Okay.
Whey protein comes from milk. So it's not, after that, eggs. I'm big on eggs. Eggs, whites are great fast digesting protein.
Yeah. How many eggs do you think a morning one should eat if they're in
It
season?
depends on your body weight. 3 or 4 minimum.
Yeah.
If you can do the whites, if you want to do a lot more egg whites, depending on what you're trying to do with your weight. But the egg yolk's loaded with B12, a lot of vitamins in, a lot of nutrients. Egg white. When you think about what it's made for, it's protein made to develop an embryo. Right? It's made to grow things.
Right.
Milk is made to grow things.
Yeah.
That's why they're great for building. So I'm all for eggs. I eat a lot more than that.
Luke mentioned Paul Tilley earlier, the ultramarathoner. One of his kind of unique things that he does is he drinks milk in his races. He's called the milkman locally because he drinks milk when he runs, and a lot of people think it's odd because milk can upset people's stomach and when it's running it's kind of rude, but he says that it's great for protein, fats, and just everything else, carbohydrates.
So if the sugar that you need, milk's got sugar, fats are a good energy source. If there is protein that's easily digestible in your stomach, which milk is, it will pull the amino acids out of that and send them to the muscles that's needed. They're part of that fuel source. If you don't have that in there, then it turns here for it.
Right.
So as you're breaking down that tissue, it can use those amino acids to replenish that. So yeah, it's keeping his body from eating muscle.
Yeah.
I guess the simplest way I can put it. I don't know it all, but that's my understanding.
Is Dutch's chocolate milk really better? Because you hear that from
It's
people.
local. It's local.
Local.
It tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's local.
Dollar goes further.
Yeah. I'm all about getting some chocolate milk, which they're working on now. So that's good.
Just to look back to creatine for a second, you'll see creatine monohydrate and creatine, I think it's HCl.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
monohydrate's just the separated. Here's what it is. Like here's powder. It's creatine.
Okay, so you don't think there's a big difference between the two?
I'm sure there is on what they're selling.
Yeah.
I think a lot of stuff's placebo in the way they sell it. If you look at a lot of these energy drinks today, they're like former pre-workout companies, and they're making energy drinks now. They've got creatine in them, or precursors, what they call most of the molecules do. If you look at energy drinks now, if you'll see the top of them, they're advertised for energy with creatine. It's
Right.
not. It was a pre-workout. You turn it into an energy drink.
Yeah. Back to your career. You were at Grayson for a few years and you came to Carroll. Why did you decide to come to Carroll?
So Grayson, the coach I told you about, my mentor, he was moving on from there. I just decided that was a place I probably needed to vacate at that point. And I had a couple of job offers here in another local school. And my son at the time was going into his senior year. And we had a lot of family in Carroll, and where I lived, it just made a lot of sense to come back here for a year. So that was the big play, was my family and my son being able to go somewhere where he could play his senior year and knew some people. And, that's a hard, that's a rough spot for him to be in, to be like, oh, by the way, you're moving to your senior year. So,
It's tough.
he was familiar with a lot of people here. So.
Was that the only reason that you came to teach here, correct?
I did. And I like the school system. I love it here in Carroll. So also teaching job wise, it was a way better offer. I knew Carroll kids, and I knew this would be a better place to teach. That's a nice way of saying it, I guess.
So what are you teaching now?
It's fitness.
Fitness. Are you in the classroom anymore?
No, we're in the weight room all day. I'd like to change it to strength and conditioning. I don't like the term fitness. I hate that term.
Yeah.
I'm down here all day long, first through third block. Well, zero period. I get here at 5:45 in the morning. I've got some lifters that meet me at 6 a.m. and then our zero period starts at 6:45. Right now we got about 28 guys in it. And then I got first through third block, and then we hit after school lifting at 3:30.
I didn't know that you got here at 6 and had lifters at 6.
Yeah, Lance Burnette, he usually meets me here every morning at 6 a.m. I got some other guys get here pretty early.
Okay.
And then, like I said, my main core group starts at 6:45.
Okay. So I work in the morning from 7 to 8, and I've been wanting to come to zero period, but because
You're more than welcome. I'm here at 5:45. So
Okay.
if you want to get a lift in at 6 a.m., I'm here.
Okay, I'll take you up on that.
Yep.
Awesome.
So
One more thing about health, sleep.
Sure.
What's your advice for sleep?
80% of our recovery is when we sleep. As much of as you can get. One of our problems is we stare at a screen all night. We TikTok and Instaface and all that stuff for hours an evening, right? But that's our recovery, especially at younger ages. But I don't get enough of it. I'm guilty. Obviously, I get here early. Sleep is everything for an athlete.
Yeah.
That is when your body repairs what is damaged. And if you're not getting enough of that, you're plugging something into charge and unplugging it before it's fully charged. You know. So I'm an advocate of 8+. If you can get it, turn the phone off, get to bed. You know, I don't like that whole "you can sleep when you're dead" thing. No, if you're competing and you're training, you need it. Your immune system gets taxed if you don't sleep, and you guys both know there's nothing worse than in season getting that good old sinus infection or cold or whatever else that starts to bog you down and lingers for 2 weeks. Right? We need to do all we can to keep our body efficient.
I had bronchitis for a month and a half last track season, and it ruined it. It ruined it.
I lose my voice all the time, and here where I'm just beat down right now, I can't get healthy. You know.
Luke's, you've heard him cough a few times, and it's been much to my bane with editing the podcast.
It was really bad, and it wouldn't go away. And I was coughing so much, the acid in my throat was coming up. And
That's me.
yes.
Oh, yes.
And he would scab over, and I had to go to a specialist because we didn't know it was wrong. And she said, every time you cough, it's tearing those scabs off. And she says, it's just not going to get better. So they had to give me some high-powered medicine. And eventually it went away, but I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't stop coughing. It's that constant irritant. And with running, that was just horrible. Because I would finish, and I felt like I know it was in shape, but just that constant cough, it was terrible.
Yep.
It really was.
So you mentioned you came back to Carroll for a year, you said?
Uh-huh.
And then did you go to Floyd after that?
Yeah, so coached here at Carroll for football season, teaching English, senior English. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Had some great students. My goal was to be a head football coach.
Right.
I made no bones about that. Everybody knew me, knew that. You know, that was my goal. What I worked toward. I thought I had a head coaching job. I thought I had one. March of that year, I was here after football season. About that February, actually, I was very close to getting hired as a head coach at a program, and I felt like I had the job actually.
Yeah.
And it didn't pan out. They hired somebody, it worked out great for me. I got a phone call a week after that and said, "Hey, do you want to come run our weight room, do our strength and conditioning all day?" And I was like, wearing gym shorts every day and working with they had a legendary football coach, and I was all about learning from guys that did it best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to go where I could really learn, and Winford Bill's there, man. He's been there 40-some years.
Yeah.
And they offered me to run the weight room all day, and I said I couldn't turn that down. So I took a job doing strength and conditioning, coaching football for them. And coaching for Coach Bill, so that's what I did. I took that. I couldn't turn that down. That's just a no-brainer. You know, built strength and conditioning program however I wanted. Had great support.
Right.
And we turned it around. We ended up a day there putting 135 athletes through the weight room a day.
Wow.
So that was all sports. I had golfers,
Wow.
basketball, baseball, softball, everybody you can think of. You know,
Nice.
their track program. They carry 83, 84 usually.
Wow. Yeah.
You know. I think a down year they'll have 72, 73 kids running track.
That's nothing like ours. I think we have a pretty small varsity team
Yeah,
this year.
at least.
I know middle school's going to come in and that just inflates everything, but your core varsity group is smaller. And with cross country, I mean,
We have 20 kids, if that.
at max,
Including middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at 10, 11 varsity runners, boys and girls. So some years we're just lucky to have a team.
That's
Count.
much different. Yeah.
Yeah, it is different. Yes, sir. So you were at Floyd for 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
2
Okay.
years.
And then you came here. What was the process like coming back to Carroll County? You're obviously familiar with it.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
When this job came open, I knew the Floyd job. Coach Bill was retiring, and I knew I was in very good shape for that job as well, and we had discussed that. This was the goal the whole time, was to be Carroll County's head football coach if it ever come open. I started this whole thing with this job in mind. As you go, you start to wonder though, like that may not pan out, So I would like to build a program somewhere, and like I said, I didn't know if this job would come open. I knew the Floyd job was, and it was crazy because this job come open and I put in, but I also had the Floyd thing going on at the same time. And a head coaching job is one of those where you can't just put all your eggs in one basket,
Right.
Because if it doesn't work out, then you're in trouble, And it just, the way it timed out and worked out, and I communicated with both places openly as I could. And when I got the offer for the Carroll County job, I also the same day had the offer for the Floyd County job. So it was just crazy. I'd spent all these years trying to get a head coaching job, and it's like in one day, it's like,
You get two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was, I won't say surreal, but it was kind of like, man, because at some, you doubt yourself over, time. I went from law enforcement and all that background into teaching and this. And I'm like, man, I don't know if this will happen, or, if someone will take that risk, or, because you never know. And I was super excited to get offered here. It was no doubt. There was no question to it. I told him in my interview, if I'm offered this position, I'm taking it 100%. This is where I wanted to be. So,
Does your career as a officer affect the way that you deal with kids? How you give them advice?
the best experience I've ever had in learning how to communicate with people is working narcotics. Not only working undercover, because when you work undercover, you have to learn to find common ground with everyone. You have to blend, right? Mm-hmm. But working narcotics, you see people at their lowest points in life. They don't want to be there, and everyone has a story, even the ones that are despicable to you. You have to find parts of them to get to. When you interview someone, you have to find things that you can conversate about and talk about. But I think my understanding of the real world and what's really in people's homes, my idea of normal and your idea of normal, and a lot of people in our community, everyone has a different idea of normal when they go home. Someone that has not that great of a household to go to every day, their idea of normal, mine are entirely different. And I understand that. And I've seen the worst, absolute worst in people. And I think it just allows me to connect better with people, because I don't just see what's in a classroom. I see what's in homes. And I think that's given me a lot more patience. I see it on some kids. I see some things that I recognize. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that I'm able to get through that. And then I go back to the military and the SWAT stuff, man. I remember what it was like to be a young dude that was into, excitement and a little bit, adrenaline. And I think it relates great with football players, because I can connect with young men, because football's hard. It's hard. I don't care what anybody wants to say. It's hard. Mm-hmm. What we ask these guys to do and year round, and then to go physically do what we ask them to do, it's hard. It takes a special kid to do that. And I think I'm able to connect with those kids almost, and I don't think of it necessarily as much as I do football coaching, as I do that, young SWAT guy or that young guy. When I was in the military, I kind of use that avenue more than I do the teaching avenue with those kids. I think I just have a better perspective than if I would have spent my entire time in a classroom. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's great. There's some amazing teachers. Yeah. It gives me a whole nother outlook, I suppose. Mm-hmm.
So now you're the head coach for the Carroll County team. Mm-hmm. What's your goals with the program?
Get better every day. Yeah. We make no bones about it. We work as hard as we can every day. We want to win Monday. Our focus right now is Tuesday. We're not looking at August. We're not looking at July, June. Tuesday. We want to get the heck after it on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Our saying for the week is yesterday was the only easy day. Tomorrow's going to be harder, and we're going to intentionally make it harder. We're going to stress the body, stress the mind, get better. That's our goals right now, to build a culture of toughness. There's only one way to do it. And I tell the guys there's one path to where we want to go. It goes through that weight room. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at right now. And to talk about anything past that as far as our goals, man, our goal is beat Tuesday, beat it to death. So that's where we're at. My goal, though, overall as a program, and I tell our assistant coaches this when we talk about it, is that we want young men to walk out of our program as better young men than when they entered. And football can help that, and we can help that. So.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years, in this program in 10 years?
Hopefully building it to have a tremendous culture grounded in hard work, and that, I'll just be honest, I'd like for our team in 10 years to be, Carroll County somewhere that other teams don't want to come play. Yeah. We want to be tough-nosed, hard-nosed, physical, and stay after you. Don't quit. So I'd like for it to be like, man, we don't want to go to Hillsville tonight. That's what I'd like to see in 10 years.
Yes.
So.
Thank you for your time so far. Before we wrap up, we have a series of questions that we ask every interviewee.
Okay.
And I'll go first. What advice do you have to younger generations who are looking to pursue a career in law enforcement or the military?
Do your research, and understand that it's not for everyone. If it's something you think you want to do, you need to talk to those who have done it, and understand that if you just, if it's something you're thinking about and you get into it and you understand that it's not for you, then you're probably right. Yeah. Because it's one of those careers where it's not just your fate that's in your hands, But I do encourage people to look at it, because it is fulfilling on a level that very other things in this world can be, and I salute those that still are willing to do it, because it is becoming increasingly more difficult to do that job.
My question runs along the same vein as Ethan's. What is your advice to young people just making their way in the world? They don't really know what they're going to do.
The biggest deficiencies that we're seeing in the workforce today, it used to be computer skills and technology skills. Well, obviously that's not it today. Is the biggest problems, if you look at the Department of Labor statistics over the last 3 years, that the things they're identifying are people aren't showing up to work when they're supposed to. They're not on time. They won't stay off their cell phone. You do not have to be the most intelligent or brightest person in the world anymore. If you can show up and work hard and dedicate yourself to something, to becoming better, you will outstride most other people now. And that is the reality of the world we live in today. Hard work is becoming like this rare thing. Consistency is becoming rare. Dedication and devotion. Staying the course somewhere a while and letting it play out. The people throw the snowflake thing around a lot. I think they get confused with what that term meant. That term meant when things get harder, you're at a job for 4 or 5 months, people are just blowing on to the next job with the wind because they're not satisfied. They're trying to reach this fulfillment, right? I tell our guys, there's kind of like the mountain in front of you you're trying to climb. Man, there's always a mountain. Like, it's always there. It's that consistency in it. So if you can learn to do that, to put your nose to the grindstone and stay dedicated and work hard, you'll succeed in whatever you want to go to, for the sheer, attrition of it. I think we lose sight of that. I think we think today in a world of instant gratification that we're going to go into something, we're going to be amazing, we're going to be a bright young star, and boom, success happens. No, it's a grind. And if you will accept that and devote yourself to the hard work and the grind of it and the consistency of it, you'll outpace people. You'll outdo them. The other one is, you don't have to like everyone, but if you can learn to work with others, the person that gets promoted and sees success is the lowest risk to the team. People want to promote the guy that they know when they promote him that he's going to get along with others and have a great working environment. So, that's another one I think that we're losing sight of. So I'm not an individualistic guy. I'm a team-oriented kind of guy. So,
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Great lesson.
Our last question is a bit of a doozy, but we ask everybody this.
And we find it's very indicative of a person's true character and who they are. And that is, what is the meaning of life to you?
The meaning of life to me? Ooh. I was going to throw out an old Conan quote, but it's not appropriate. That's one you could think on for days.
Yeah.
I don't know about the meaning of life as far as, if you want to talk about purposes and what we're put here to do, because, I don't know if we all get put into that right category or find it. I guess that depends on your own personal beliefs. To me, though, when I leave this world, right? None of my material things are going with me. And I think for my meaning, the meaning of life for me is when I leave this world, I want the people that I interacted with, I wanted them to get something positive out of me. I wanted to bring something into their life that they remembered. So I guess for me, the meaning of life is, in the end, what were you able to offer others? What did you contribute to the good? I think a lot of people in this world tear it down, but what are you able to give? What are you able to leave behind for this world that was positive for people that you loved, people that you encountered? I think to me that's it. We take a lot, man. The society takes a lot, and we're really, as a species, I think we're self-centered, and we take a whole lot. What are we able to give or leave? So for me, that's it, I guess, if that's a roundabout answer. I don't know if I have a great quote for you there.
That was good.
Perfect.
All righty. Well, thank you, sir. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Shoot, yeah.
Thank you.